and it's something that we want to use as a tool for her to communicate with Patty. The quarterly. What was the last thing that you know? What the last thing that got delivered to her was? It was the quarterly.
Okay, we are live.
Yeah.
I think they're still working on the quarterly report, and this week they've been turned.
Dan, I think Dan's background is coming in.
What?
We're hearing somebody else's something.
Okay, Dan muted. Okay, so we're ready to start.
Like,
So can we call the meeting to order?
Yeah, sorry. I'm on another call, but I will join momentarily.
if we can now update it via the air update, where we just pull it.
Okay, Dan just muted himself. Good for Dan. Okay, so let's call the meeting to order.
If those reports live, then she has access.
Thanks, Dan. You want to start out with the dog law or we can.
Why don't we do the approval of the minutes?
I think so too. I got this agenda, but it seemed out of order to me. Okay, so has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Okay.
Yes.
So would someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
Well, there's something wrong with it.
Oh, please.
There's no legacy program.
Okay, is that what George, is that in there and George didn't
Yeah, he said
mention
there's a
it?
legacy program, but there's no legacy program because they don't have any funds for it for years now. So that no longer is valid. Legacy program.
So can we amend the minutes saying that the legacy program is not funded right now, or do you think it should be struck from the minutes, Carlo?
Now, I would probably say it's probably going to be struck because there definitely won't be any money going forward with it.
Okay,
Right, to tie it in with the legacy program, just strike that piece as a part of the sentence.
okay.
Oh.
So,
Okay, Charles got that. We will amend the minutes after the meeting or for tomorrow.
okay, so I may have a motion to approve the minutes as amended. So that would be Kristen and second by Carrie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, minutes are approved as amended. Okay, so let's go on to the dog law. Anyone want to start off the discussion?
My biggest. Sorry. Go ahead.
Carlo, I just said it looked fine to me.
My biggest issue with the dog law basically has to do with enforcement. It's like every other policy, every other law that we have in the community. They look great on paper, but when you have to try to enforce them, there's an issue. There is none, just about. And what I was thinking is, I'm not certain who's going to enforce the law, but I would probably, if it gets passed for the harbor, I think everyone at the rec department, everyone at the parks department, and hopefully the parking enforcement and police department, of course, have the right to either ask someone to put the dog on a leash or do the right thing or get off the playing fields. Otherwise, people aren't going to follow the rules. There are always going to be some bad apples.
I just want to circle back. So when we met the last time in March, we were talking about, doing a trial at certain parks. Has anything happened in
No.
the past few months? Nothing. Okay.
I can give like a quick update. So the idea was that there would be a trial. We would consider a trial. In our trial, we would have to allow it to happen in the beginning of June, which was our new budget season, and where there were a couple of people who were going to be deputized to be able to do this code kind of enforcing on weekends. So that was in the budget. But we weren't really doing any public hearings during started again. We just did our first last week. So, and coupled with that, there was supposed to be the park. In June, the park was going to be completely kind of overtaken, not completely overtaken, but there were going to be a lot of people in and out of the park for trains and buses up to Wingfoot. So nothing happened, and I think basically there are people who post dogs, and even dog owners, people have been 2 dogs, either Columbus Park or in Florence Park. And there's been tremendous numbers of emails about that, and probably they should have been forwarded to you. They've come in every time this has been on the agenda. There's been a lot. So start with Harbor Island Park. And so we were hoping to discuss it at last week's meeting, but we didn't have our meeting. So it'll be on the agenda, hopefully, for the August 10th meeting to try and just at least get dogs in Harbor Island Park and then see if we can go forward in another way.
Well, I think it would really be helpful on this matter that is our jurisdiction if we could see what the public has to say.
Well, except I can ask that all those emails be forwarded, but I think the goal is, I think at this stage, there's probably a consensus on the Board of Trustees that they want to push forward a law that allows dogs in a limited way in Harbor Island. There are enough votes to get it to the other 2 parks. So that was a discussion to have here.
So even though we have this proposed local law, you're saying that really the Columbus Park and Florence Park is not going to fly at this point?
I have a feeling it's not going to fly. So laws, because I think there's just a better public consensus that this is a good idea for Harbor Island Park. So, I mean, I think what will happen is if there were to be a public hearing on this law, it would be overwhelmingly opposed by, not necessarily by trustees, but by.
Even with the testing it out?
The testing, because I think the people who live around the parks feel there are too many dogs in the parks already. And that's even a consensus of dog walkers, of dog owners. So yeah, so I think that you know, unless all of the people who supported it didn't come out, it was basically overwhelmingly opposed. So my sense is we should probably, if we want to at least start to have dogs in Harbor Island Park, we should do that and see if we can get the other 2.
I'd be curious to see if once you allow the dogs in Harbor Island Park, if there'll be less dogs in the other parks because of that. Like, I don't know how we can figure that out, but
there might be. I mean, I think there are a lot of dogs in Harbor Island Park now. I mean, I see it. I'm not a dog walker. I mean, I'm actually a dog walker, not a dog owner, but I do see a lot.
So are
There's
we
quite a
not
few
going
on
to
the
put this
Rushmore
in?
side. Certainly, there's a lot. Certainly, there's a lot of dogs on the Rushmore side of Harbor Island Park, and it's well used. And I think I know who a lot of the neighbors are because I live nearby, and I think there's a lot of people that are bringing dogs there, which is great. They're all social, and it seems to be pretty well used for that purpose. I'm a little bit concerned that the resistance to the other parks stems from dog owners believing that if they allow it, there'll be even more dogs, because there's only really in any given neighborhood, there's kind of a fixed number of dogs in the neighborhood. As a practical matter, people are already bringing their dogs to the park, illegally or legally. And it's my opinion, I don't think that any kind of new rules or laws for Columbus Park, Florence Park, others is really going to change the number meaningfully. I think they're already there.
Can I, George Ladd's trying in. Can somebody, Jason, can you let George in?
Yep, he's promoted.
Thank you.
Does he ever miss a meeting?
No,
The
George.
guy blows my mind.
He's incredible.
I think
He's been doing that for years.
Hi, George.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
George.
Hi. We're
Hi.
good. Thanks for coming.
I always like to, as Nora knows, she's seen me at a lot of these things,
Yep.
as also has Dan. It's very helpful. And just for the record, I just came from the County Parks Board meeting. And more recently, I was on both Dorchester and then the Rye Brook various Parks and Recs committee. So I'm trying to collect as much information as I can.
Right.
Well, we're
Welcome.
having a discussion about allowing dogs in the park, all the parks. And so Nora believes that the Board of Trustees is only in favor of Harbor Island having dogs at the moment. And we had written a local law to allow them in many of the parks. So that's our discussion, George.
Okay. Well, it'll be instructive for me to listen, so I'll just chill and appreciate the dialogue.
So Nora, if we put this law that we've written through, present it to the board, are you saying they'll shoot it down completely or they'll just strike things from it?
I think I was asked to bring it back to you, asking if you would make a recommendation of just doing it. The Board of Trustees can modify a law in a work session, and we can't hold a public hearing until we're all in agreement. We can't hold a public hearing until we're all comfortable with the law, and then that's the law about which a public hearing is to be held. So we've never held a public hearing on this, to discuss and to, in fact, the first time to actually schedule a public hearing, and even before the public hearing was scheduled, there was a tremendous amount of opposition to it. So I think the feeling is it's probably likely that there's less opposition to dogs in Harbor Island Park. So that's something that might get accomplished quickly. Since before Christmas, but I know everything has been slower with COVID. So I think if this is the law that's still before us, it's going to end up getting modified to just be Harbor Island Park. And maybe it's better to have the conversations about the other parks separately. This actually only talked about 2 other parks. It was a trial for limited hours in both Florence Park and in Columbus Park.
Right.
Those were the parks. I think ultimately what we really need is a dog park. I mean, that's what the village really needs.
Rushmore Avenue.
Well, so that's what we really need. So the question is, there's a lot of things we need right now, and the past,
So they're allowed currently at the harbor around the West Basin on that side. That isn't the issue. We're talking about then extending it to the rest of the harbor and putting that through.
Not all of the park, but
no, I'm talking about just the harbor. Just currently in the harbor, dogs can be around the West Basin on leash. That's where they're currently allowed. They're not allowed in the rest of the harbor, like where the fields are and everything else.
Correct.
That's what we're looking to extend it to. Still on leash,
but not on
restricted hours.
And not in the fields.
Not in the fields.
And how are we going to enforce that? That's the issue. It's always been the issue. And I don't want to hear that they're not going to be on the fields. They will be on the fields. And can we do this on a trial basis? And can we deputize, say, Barry and his entire staff and others?
Well, Jason,
I don't think that's good.
They're on the fields now. I see people with dogs on the fields now,
absolutely.
And that's not enforced. But you're going to have lack of enforcement with whatever you do. I mean, you're supposed to pick up your dog's poop everywhere you go, and no one's walking around enforcing that. And there's dog poop all over the neighborhoods. So I think you're going to have that lack of enforcement everywhere. And I don't think that's going to change.
We're going to try to do better with the enforcement.
Jason, actually, you can enforce now, right?
Not yet. I'm getting trained, and I think there's someone from the Parks Department that's going to get trained to be able to enforce the dog law, or village code violations, I should say.
Code violations, right?
Yeah, we got to get trained so soon.
And that means there'll be people who are working on weekends who can do the enforcement, which we really haven't had up until now.
That's correct.
I mean, Rydetown Park, they have dog rules at that park, and they do have enforcement, and they do have people that go around, and if you're not following the rules, they come after you. So perhaps we can reach out to them and see how they model it as far as enforcement goes, to try and understand what works.
But down at the harbor, there's 2 groups of people that are always down there: the Parks Department and the Rec Department. Those guys are coming in and out of the park religiously. Correct me if I'm wrong, Barry and Jason. Your 2 departments there basically are in and out on a regular basis, unlike the police department, and others, and the parking enforcement. They're down there quite a bit as well, the parking enforcement. So that's why I can't understand that we don't deputize more within those 2 or 3 departments than just 2 individuals, because then you have more eyes, more feet on the ground.
I agree. There's more training involved.
Yeah,
I think that's a Jerry question. To be able to have stipends for 2 people you can't have, it has to be an extra stipend. It's an extra responsibility, so there has to be a related payment to it. You can't just deputize all the parks workers or all the rec employees.
Okay.
Jason, Jason and Barry, do you think that's, I mean, I think that's the answer.
That's pretty accurate.
You're
Yeah.
correct on that.
If it's outside someone's scope of work, I think there has to be some form of, there's unions and
Compensation.
stuff and compensation, right? So,
All right,
Just
so
to
the,
go back on, just to go back on what you're saying about the people walking the dogs in the morning down here, walking them during the day. I'm here all the time. I want to say 80 of them have their, all them people have their dogs on leash when they're walking them. And the ones that are in the field early in the morning, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and they're making them run, those people actually do pick up everything. If they do, whatever the dogs are doing, they clean up after themselves, everything. And they're out of here by 8 o'clock.
Those aren't the goose dog people, are they, Barry?
No. The goose dog people are completely separate.
Okay.
Okay. I go back to what you're saying, you know, if the board, you know, says it's fine for them to walk all day, it's let them walk all day. I mean, but it's up to the board to decide that.
but I think we were just talking, at least from my knowledge, it was just the outer perimeter, right? We weren't talking about the every other part of the park, no playground area, no athletic field, just the walking path per se.
but Jason, you're always gonna have the individuals who's gonna go straight across from the bubble, we'll say, to Boston Post Road, straight across the fields. You'll have those individuals who do that. All right,
Well,
and there's
But
always,
it's already happening. I mean,
right,
the few times that I've been down there, there've been people with their dogs near the beach on the field. So
right. So that's why I say enforcement or a trial period also. If it doesn't work, we pull it. Why not do a 3 to 6 month period, whatever it may be?
Well, we can pass we can put forward the law, and the, the village wheels work so slowly, Carla.
Yeah, I know.
So we could get that passed, and then have within our means an evaluation period.
Revisit it later.
much
Just
like
revisit
you're
it later.
suggesting.
Right.
Well, I mean, you can make that recommendation too. And I have, when we first started with these Zoom meetings, the guidance we were getting from NICOM and was that, you really shouldn't hold public hearings that weren't essential. Like we had to hold budget hearings, that we shouldn't be holding public hearings because it was hard for the public to participate in Zoom. But now it doesn't look like we're going to stop Zooming anytime soon. And the public has figured out how to participate in meetings. So we have to start, checking things off the agenda. So we're having a public hearing on the tree law in September, and our next meeting's August, and maybe we can schedule a public hearing for the end of September or the beginning of October on the dog law once we can agree on a draft. We only have one more meeting in August. It's August 10th.
So Nora, this law, as it's written currently, is between May 1st and November 1st.
Right. So that would have to change.
So could we, but if we were going to do the trial, could we just do the trial through November, sort of reevaluate it, and then be prepared to have, if it all goes well, have it be in place permanently, and maybe at that point push for the other parks?
Yeah, I mean,
once we
my
have a
sense
track
is,
record?
my sense is if we schedule the public hearing for the second week of September, or even this first meeting in, it'd be the fourth week in September or the second week in October, there would only be like a 3-week trial. So we might want to extend it a little bit longer than that. That would be a very short trial.
Yeah, I don't like that time period at all. I think it's.
I'm sorry, the November 1st really just was about walking your dog to a boat. So I guess really November 1st, that doesn't really mean much.
Why does it have to be a trial? Why can't we do it as a real law and go back and revisit it? I just like something to be somewhat.
I think we were talking about a trial for the other parks.
Yeah, I don't
where
think
the trial started.
We were talking about a trial for Columbus and Florence, but Harbor Island was never going to be a trial. That was always what we wanted to push forward.
Right.
But it would also be a test. It would give more information about.
It's always a test. Everything is a test.
Everything's
Throw that dart.
Yeah,
just going back to the
Harbor, it was all of it, and it was year round, not to November, Kristen. That was just
November 1st was just walking your dog to the boat.
Correct.
Right.
So what we were trying to put through was year round between 7 a.m. and dusk in all areas of the park, other than the playing fields, the playgrounds, and the beach. And I still think that's what we should push forward. And if we want to hold off and we don't want to put the whole thing forward with, but I still think we could still do that, but just note that the Columbus Park and the Florence Park are on a trial basis. Not leave the Harbor Island as is, year round, push that through, and try to put Columbus and Florence as a trial basis.
I like everything you're saying. We should do it as two separate bills because the Board of Trustees can't separate things. They get all stuck.
Could we just do Columbus Park as a trial? Because I feel like you might have less opposition there as opposed to
Good
Florence.
idea. It's a good idea.
This is
And then
Emily.
that
I
goes
really
down
think
to
that's a
try
good
to add-
idea to select one
So-
park, particularly Columbus Park, to use as a trial. I think you have to think about the community that uses the park and how that's going to go over.
But didn't this all come about because people were asking to be allowed to walk their dogs in Columbus Park specifically?
Yeah.
What if we have,
But Florence
um,
too.
what if we have people register to go to the park? So then we have like a number. And then in order to have it kind of more controlled, you know?
Oh, well, that would be a nightmare administratively.
Yeah.
To just walk your dog?
Sign up
I don't know.
Sign up to walk
Sign up
your
to brush
dog.
your teeth.
Not to sign up, just like, almost like, you know how you have a boating pass to go to the harbor? So in order to go with your dog, you have to have a pass.
But
Dog
then you
park
need
pass,
somebody there
but
all the time to monitor.
What's that?
You
No
would
one's
need
gonna,
somebody there to monitor.
people will just disregard that.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
the-
just a thought.
So let's try to agree that we can do the Harbor Island law, extracting the parts that talk about the other parks as one law, and then either one or both as a trial period. So do people like that framework?
So basically, for this law, you want to strike number 3 and number 4 in this particular law as it's written and separate it into a separate law and have it be on keep the wording, but have it add that it's a trial basis. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. I just
But
wonder
we're
what
gonna
other
do
people think.
both. We're gonna do Columbus Park and Florence Park as a trial basis.
I want everyone to have a word.
I think we should, simply because
I agree.
there are
I
two
think we
different
should.
demographics there, and
Well, but
Florence
guys, we
Park
keep
has the
just saying
biggest pushback.
Florence. But guys, it's Florence Park, O'Connell Park, Pape Memorial Park, Ward Park, and Warren Park. It's like 5 parks that are encompassed in number 4. It's not just Florence Park.
Right, I see that.
Just as we're discussing the demographics.
We can't just choose one. We have to do all of them. It doesn't
I think
make
Cindy's
sense.
right.
I don't think that's fair to do just one.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I
think-
agree.
But
I think that we-
those 2 points, number 3 and number 4, as a trial basis.
I like that, Carrie.
Laura, what do you think? What will
I mean,
fly or not fly?
I think that I don't know what's going to happen in parks outside of, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think that I think that separating it will be forward, because if we still are working on a joint law, then we won't be able, if we get a separate draft of the law, we'll be able to put one or both of them forward. If it's combined, then we're going to have to try and separate it, and then it'll just take on.
So does anyone have any other input on doing that, or is anyone against doing that? I think it's a good idea. I'm all in favor for doing that. Carlo,
Yes.
what do you think?
I'm just, and again,
No,
I'm
listen,
gonna be,
take enforcement aside for a minute, as far
no,
as just,
I'm gonna basically watch it from the sidelines and see how
Okay.
it develops, and I'll talk to the people who basically utilize the harbor, like soccer people who are there religiously, or the baseball people. And, I'll talk to Barry and we go from there. But if we have to yank it because there are going to be some bad apples who basically don't follow the rules, whether if it's on the playground or on the fields, then we just yank it.
How hard is it to change it once it's passed though? Like, how does that work?
It's changing a law. I mean, it's just, you have to have a proposed local law that we schedule for hearing. It's the same process.
Right.
Well, if it's a trial. If the law is changed, then there's the same process for changing the law back.
And that's why I was going back to the trial, because I know they've done things on a trial basis in the village as well, whether if it's 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months. And then they revisit it and they say, hey, you know, it was a good thing or a bad idea, and they yank it.
Oh, we're agreeing with you on the trial,
Right.
Carla.
Right.
Yeah. So I
So-
think that's what we should do then. We should
Yeah,
separate
How-
what's
how-
written.
How long a period is the trial, guys, normally?
It depends what it, I'm sorry.
Well, the last trial I remember was parking on the Mamaroneck Avenue, and it was like 3 months. Remember when
Right.
so that was 3 months.
But ours
Some
is
of
going to be weird because it'll be the winter.
No,
Maybe-
it'll be fall. It won't be winter. It's actually probably a really good
yeah,
time.
it's probably a good time because
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because most people aren't going to walk their dogs down at Harbor Island because it gets awfully, awfully cold down there with the wind, as
Yeah.
a lot of people know. So I think, you know, come probably probably mid-November, it's just going to tail off, take time, and then we can, over the winter, say, was it a good idea? Was it a good plan? Was it a good law? We revisit it, and then all of a sudden, come April 1st, whatever it may be, we make a decision again. That's my
I like
thought.
it. Sounds
Yeah,
good, Carla.
I agree.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
So let's vote on it because I'm under 1 hour meeting.
Randy's being efficient.
So would someone like to make a motion to separate the laws? We'll vote on one and then we'll vote on the second one. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Sounds right.
Okay, so who wants to make
I
a
motion
motion?
that we separate the
motion.
lots and have one for Harbor Island Park and one for the others, one temporary.
Okay, so Dan made the motion. Who wants to second it?
I second it. Cindy
Okay, so-
Fasolina.
Cindy seconded it. Okay. Discussion? We had the discussion. All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Emily, aye.
Thanks, Emily. And all those opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous. Okay,
all
so
right.
we're gonna separate them. We're gonna have the Harbor Island law, which will be, a permanent quote, as much as anything is permanent. And then we're gonna have the second law, which will be a 3-month trial at those parks that are named on item 4.
and 3 and 4.
Oh, 3 and 4. Thank you.
So we're just going to take 3 and 4. We're going to pull it out, put it separate, and add that it is a trial basis for 3 months.
Correct.
I'm looking at this law and it's different than I remember it. And I just want to ask you a question. For number 3, which was Columbus Park,
Mhm.
it was 7 to 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. So it was 3 hours in the day. Florence Park was Florence Park and O'Connell Park, Pape Park, and Ward and Warren are all 7 a.m. till dusk. It's all day.
Correct. That was how it was. Columbus Park was initially 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and they shortened it. No, it was till 8 and they shortened it till 8. We wanted it to 9 and they changed it to, it was changed to 8. But Florence Park was always from dawn until dusk on this thing.
If I
Additional-
remember, it was because of the traffic of people going to the train and because there's a daycare around the corner that uses the park, maybe?
I think it was to be respectful of commuters, of course, which there are so many less of them now.
But they should all be on leaches, correct?
Yes, this
So
isn't
what
an
should
off leash thing. This is,
Right,
this
so
is,
they
they
should
have
all
to
be
be on
comparable.
leash.
Right, they should all be straight across the board, same hours, we'll say, I think.
I think Carlo's right.
Yeah.
But
You
what
know,
does
that's my
everybody
belief.
else think?
Right, I mean,
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make sense.
I
It-
agree too.
Everything. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Sorry, Sin.
No. We should make it all the same. All the parks, the trial, same time.
Okay, so let's
Jason.
strike 3. Let's strike 3 and make them all in 4. Does that work for you guys? I mean, it's a trial.
yeah, I'd say yes, all
So do them
equal,
all from 7 a.m. to dusk. Do
Yeah.
all those parks.
Yeah.
and then we
What was
revisit
the
it.
reason we changed it? Jason, I remember, do you remember?
The community wanted to change.
People
In that
complained.
area, right?
Yeah, the people that live there in the flats, Washingtonville, they requested it. So that's why we originally made the change.
There was a guy that came to our meeting.
One guy.
Yeah, well, I don't
Well,
know.
they were a representative of the Community Resource Center. That was a
Mhm.
representative, and of the folks that live there. And that is why we did change.
Right.
But what was his reasoning?
Yeah, what
Was
was
there
their
a reason?
reasoning? I don't recall.
Because kids play in the playground and they were afraid that the dogs were going to be a problem.
Well, that's the
Dogs
situation
are-
everywhere. That's
I
the
understand. That was
Then
the-
Florence Park should be the same because they have the playground there too.
Right.
and there's-
But if
Right.
it's only a trial, then I say let's try it. And then if we
Right.
need to scale it back, we scale it back in the final
Right.
law.
I
Right.
agree.
Good idea. Same
I
here.
understand the Columbus Park reasoning. Columbus Park is a little different than Florence in that the walking path goes around both of those playground apparatus. Whereas Florence, the playground is separate and you can very easily, just be on the field part and the walking track there. They're kind of, those parks are set up a little different.
I think that's why we did it. Florence has the walking track. It's more of a conducive to walking, whereas Columbus
Right.
is just playgrounds and grass area. That's not a set route.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
but-
set up a little differently, but I do think
but-
let's just try it.
But again, if with the track, kids are riding their bikes. I mean, I know my kids used to ride their bikes or walk around that track as well. So there's always going to be an encounter.
Right.
So I just think you should just keep it equal. They're all going to be on leashes.
Yep.
They all have.
Agree. They all have to be leashed.
Agree. 7 a.m. to dusk for both.
Okay, I think we're done with this.
Yay.
So Jason, do you want to give us an update on what COVID procedures? Just highlight the recreation departments had to enforce or take on new measures? And is there any pushback you can share with us about camp or anything else that's been positive or
building, yeah.
negative?
So COVID's it was challenging in the beginning. I feel like I'm getting kind of numb to it. I don't want to say used to it because you can't get used to it, more just numb to it. And it's like, I'm just used to it. It's another plan, what are we going to do if this happens? What are we going to do if this happens? It's like A, B, C, and D, just a whole bunch of contingency plans. It started in the beginning with shutting everything down, which happened very quickly and rapidly. And then we went into kind of like a dormant period, it felt like, because it was a little bit of winter, and then it started getting nice out, and that's when we were working on signage. I mean, you can look in Harbor Island Park, you see signs everywhere. We're working on signage, we're working on personnel and enforcement people to drive around and make sure there's social distancing going on. Then the governor made that announcement that we could open up the beach, and I think that was like 6 days or something before we were about to open. So we came up with a plan fairly quick. We had to submit it to the county health department, and it was back and forth with how many people we were going to have on the beach based on our square footage of capacity, and it was a lot. And then the challenges of we didn't have the bathrooms open in the park for the first 2 weeks because we were just very nervous. We had a portable restroom outside, and then we got some equipment where we could, aerosol spray down the bathrooms, and we were doing that, and we opened them. We're doing them 4 times a day, and we're still doing them 4 times a day. And that's kind of how it is on the beach and in the harbor now. And then the playgrounds, we came up with a plan to open up the playgrounds, and the parks department power washing them and sanitizing them daily. And it's a lot. We're doing a lot, and it's almost like you can never do enough because I think most of you guys know you can come to Harbor Island at any time and you could just feel like there's an overwhelming amount of people just at first glance on a busy Saturday or Sunday. And we are just doing the best we can to manage it as safely as possible. We're handing out masks. The county gave us these Hanes masks as a nice donation. We've been handing them out like crazy to beach visitors and folks in the public, restaurants. We handed them out to our local businesses. We have hand sanitizer everywhere. I mean, you buy a daily ticket, there's hand sanitizer. You enter the beach, there's hand sanitizer. You exit the beach, there's hand sanitizer. I mean, we're really doing everything we can in terms of signage and stuff, and trying our best to enforce the masks as best as we can. And but it's tough, especially when it's 90 degrees out on the beach. So.
How has beach attendance been? Has it been very crowded?
So beach is restricted by your residency. So in the beginning, when we first opened, uh, from 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock on was only time non-residents can go on, 7 days a week. We weren't getting all huge crowd, so we kind of scaled that back. So now Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, non-residents and residents can go on at the same time. Our busier peak days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is restricted residents only from 9 a.m. to 12. And I can say that our revenue in terms of seasonal passes is doubled from last year. So that's a lot of residents buying passes that we've never seen get them in the past. I mean, doubled. We were all shocked. Our daily revenue is slightly down because we're not getting that non-resident in, but it's not, terrible. We've hit our budget projection. Obviously, that's a little skewed because we weren't anticipating opening the Friday before Memorial Day when we were working. Our budget was during the peak of COVID. So we had to cut some things down in anticipation that we might not have something, right? So we slashed our beach budget thinking that the governor wasn't going to let us open until maybe July 4th weekend, and it wasn't the case. So we have to request a transfer from the board at some point to fund the remaining months. But it's all supported by revenue, which is good. Our parking revenue is good. And once again, we're not taking cash at the booth. We have two pay stations that our great meter staff installed within 10 days. This all happened so quick. So that way we can get our daily parking revenue, which is really close to where it was last year. Another thing I would note on revenue was daily boat revenue for our boat launch is in my last report, which was 15 days ago. I have to do one for August, the month of July. It's 92% increase in daily boat revenue.
Well, these are great things. And
Right.
we're serving our residents with the beach passes.
The boat thing, I think because Glen Island.
It's a great deal.
I think because Glen Island is down, we're getting a lot of their boaters, which we could use the money, so we're taking them in. But yeah, we're doing okay. It's a busy time for us during COVID. People are using our green spaces more than they ever have, which is wonderful to see. Actually, as long as we're all being safe and doing our best, doing our part. So.
Jason, can you talk about any activities the rec department is running or plans to run? I know they're doing the tennis in the bubble or tennis outdoors.
Yeah.
There's sports fun. Is there any other programs that you're running? I know there's enormous appetite for programs, even scale back.
So we're running stand-up paddleboard classes off the beach, which are all sold out. I think we have them up on I think they're pretty much all full. They're very popular. We're going to do kayaking classes. The water sports are a lot easier to do. We're looking into trying to do some mini camp stuff in August, maybe soccer camp, a baseball camp, arts class, something like that, small things. But once again, we don't feel more comfortable taking on more than 10 kids with one instructor. And paddleboarding and kayaking have been great, but those are also a lot easier to manage. So you're on the water. It's a lot different. It's a lot easier. So we will do that on top of other things. I wanted to do a concert. I want to do an outdoor movie. I know Eastchester did a concert. I would love to do an outdoor movie. But these are all hurdles we're dealing with in terms of this maximum gathering size set by our governor, which supposedly is 50, but I've heard that there's 33% of the square foot of your outdoor area. It's very complicated. So we're not really sure what we can do and we can't do. I know Eastchester did a big concert. I talked to Harrison today. They're planning on doing some concerts. And we're talking about 100, 150 people socially distanced. Harbor Island Park is huge. So it's not something that's unreasonable, but we're just working out all those things, what we can do and what we can't do. We also don't want a situation where we run a program or camp and we have staff get the COVID and we have to shut down. That was my biggest fear with day camp. I think that was all of our biggest fears.
Are
Jason,
you-
go. I'm sorry.
Are you renting the fields out?
We are. Sports started on July 6th for Little League. They have their permits, so they're out there. Adult softball started. That's another program. Youth volleyball clinics, which we are allowed to do in small numbers, or on the beach in the evenings, like for a few hours, just kids. We can't do adults because that's like a tournament. We hope we'll be able to do soccer in the fall like we normally do, like we do with baseball now. Soccer, just so you guys know, soccer normally doesn't take permits out this time of year because the fields are in rest, but they will in September, hopefully. So that's our plan, unless I'm told we can't, right? That's the thing, unless we can't for whatever restriction or reason there may be. But our plan is to move forward with our permitting process for the fall, like I did on July 6th for the Little League, for the Little League kids.
I've noticed there's like little exercise classes going on, so they're not renting the field.
No, they had an agreement with the village and the village manager where the local gyms, I'm talking about businesses that are physically in the village of Mamaroneck, they are in our tax base, that those gyms could come and do open air classes in the harbor, 10 people or less, socially distanced, like yoga. There's like CrossFit, Push Fitness does some stuff, Healthy Fit. They all do. I think every gym, Orange Theory, New York, I think every gym took us up on it. And we've been doing this for quite some time, and people love it. And we are not charging them for it. This is a courtesy that the manager gave them during COVID because they can't physically be in their building. Like they can't have clients in their building. So this is something that the village decided to help them out with, the gym.
It's great.
But we are very, just so you guys know, I am very, I have a pet peeve on it. I do not let an outside gym outside of our parameters in because it would just get out of control. And we caught them and we asked them to leave because it can get out of control. So we were very, we're always looking and making sure that it's just our village businesses.
It's a great setting.
Yeah. Good.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I got a question for you, Jason, going back to what you said. I know that the Cross County is doing a drive-in movie. I'm not sure if it's a weekly or monthly. George may know about it, or Nora may know about it.
I don't.
Could we do something down at the harbor like that as well? I mean, I know that we still do movie nights.
Carlo,
I'm talking a big screen.
Yeah, I've been in conversation with Vicky and Jill from the town. It's an expensive venture because we have to rent the equipment. It's not like our normal screen, right? You need to do it a little bit different. And we wanted to partner up with the town to maybe try to help with the costs and get it, because Harbor Island's huge. So we can, let's say, maybe we do 150 people. You get 75 from the town, 75 from the village. You pre-register and do it. The town's, everyone's got their own financial situation. We're working with them. We hope to do it. Me and Jill from the town, we both just want to do a regular outdoor movie, paint circles. We both have our respective green spaces, pre-register. We will do whatever the state or county wants us to do. That's what we will do. But it's hard for us. We don't know if we can or we can't. There's some communities like Eastchester that will just have a concert. They're just going to do it.
Right.
I don't know. It's tough. It's a really community by community call. At least I feel that way.
But I just look at like what Rhinebeck did. I'm sorry, George, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll wait.
No, because I just, I took notice of that. I mean, I read the article. And then the other thing I was thinking also, Rhinebeck High School had a graduation down there. And it was a tremendous, turnout as well,
No, I saw it. It was.
I mean, I'm sure you were there, So.
I mean, 150, though, was allowed for graduations. Right. I don't have that. That's not brought upon me as a recreation supervisor director to be able to have that directive.
Couldn't they park on the grass like they used to do years ago? I mean, as long as the weather is good, blah, 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 on and on and on. I mean, you can put a ton of cars.
We know that, Carlo, it's the expense. My budget doesn't have a movie line for $4,000 or $5,000 to run the event. I have a movie line that I could do with our outdoor screen that we currently own. And it's very inexpensive for me to do that versus having to get a vendor in here to get a drive-in movie screen, which our screen is just too small. People won't see. And getting the audio equipment that would transfer to the cars too. You would need some sort of device.
Since our esteemed county executive is on this call, I certainly
let me jump in because we've had some experience with this. First of all, we authorized, worked with Dr. Barbara Ferraro to do the Rhinebeck High School graduation at Playland. We actually offered it out to a number of high schools. Rye High School took us up for a conveyance for a caravan, and then of course Rhinebeck did the actual drive-in graduation there. Probably the simplest thing to do, Jason, is you're welcome to give Peter Tartaglia a call in the County Parks Department, and he can go over with you what we had to do it, what the costs were. Jason's correct in that this is not cheap. We're doing a couple of drive-in movie nights, 2 at Kensico and 2 at Playland. The first Kensico one is this Friday. Now they sold out like this. I mean, instant. We're doing kids movies, but in the cars. And we also expect people will probably sit outside their cars, like right around the front of the grill of their car, because it's going to be hot in the car, and they don't expect you to run the air conditioning the whole time. But the long and the short of it is, whatever the logistics are, Jason, if you think it's helpful, give Peter Tartaglia a call. He can walk you through what we went through to do it, what the costs were. It's not cheap, and it's always a bit difficult. I would tell you that, if the capacity, I guess if Harbor Island is the biggest place you have to work with, the capacity is not ideal. But, we've closed Playland, so that parking lot is open. And I was on a similar one of these calls with the Portchester Commission. And I said, if you think that you want to do Mamaroneck, village night thing at Playland, because we have the larger capacity of cars, if you think that works, then we would have that discussion with you. We'll figure out costs if it can be done. It may not be doable. But we said the same thing to Portchester, because we realize we've got a big parking lot there, and most nights it's not going to be used for anything. So if you think that's a possibility, then, let us know, have that conversation with Pete, and, we'll come back to you. We're trying to make lemonade. We've all gotten a lemon, and so now we're trying to make lemonade out of it. A couple of drive-in movies at Playland does not offset the loss of Playland Amusement Park, but it's something to get us through this year, and hopefully next year to be in a different place. But we've got the numbers. We've been through it to figure out how to do it both there in Kensico. So we're happy to walk through what we did to do it, and what the impact is.
Thank you. So, but we're still stuck with that. I mean, some of my colleagues feel that it's different. We're still stuck with that 50 non-essential gathering number. No matter how big your outdoor space is, you're still stuck to that 50. Like if I want to do a concert in the park, we can't have more than 50. That's what I'm under the impression. But some people are reading things different than I am.
Is that true, Nora?
I'm sorry to do this. I'm not trying to, I really was quiet the first portion of this. Just briefly, the instructions are vague. And I will tell you, I'm just going to be blunt with you. Communities that have less of a concern about what the governor thinks are more willing to push forward. Communities, village boards, town boards, city councils, where they're more concerned about whether the governor is going to be happy or not, are less willing to take those risks. So Eastchesters and Harrisons are out there, and other communities are less willing to do it. I think that's a conversation to have with the village board first. Are you willing to push this thing to the max? Because if the S hits the fan, it's going to be the village government that's going to make those, that's going to have to deal with the Jerry and Tom, Mark Murphy, and so forth. It is vague. And what they've said is that they will allow groups, I think it's up to 50 now in phase 4, but they've given at various times rationale, as you said, for graduations up to 150, and there may be some flexibility in there if an ask is made. Brian Hecht, who's the governor's person, lives in Mamaroneck Village. It wouldn't be a bad idea to give him a call, and I think that's probably Nora or somebody on the village board on behalf of the political leadership of the community to see, here's what we're thinking of doing, what can we do, and how do we work through these rules? Because they are vague and they are subject to interpretation. But, obviously, the governor sees a picture of a bunch of guys in the Hamptons all flocking around, and he freaks out, and, that's not good for anybody. So.
Thank you.
I just looked up the cross. They're doing they're selling 125 tickets, but that's basically lining cars up, and you have to sit outside your car. So I'm imagining it's like 125 little circles. So it's got to be more than 50 people, but they may be keeping them physically apart.
Right.
And maybe, this is their second night. So
right. And the whole
just
thing is,
haven't gotten caught. And they're charging $20 a ticket.
Right. But the whole thing is, if you do like a family night, and again, I'm going to go back to our childhood, E.T., I think it would draw a lot of families, and they're going to play by the rules.
What I'll tell you is I'm going to look into it. I'll call the county. Yeah. I'm going to get a number. Listen, both myself and the town of Mamaroneck want to offer, we're very close. we want to offer something for our community members, like other communities may or might not be doing. I'll get you guys some figures. I really, as the recreation head, I would really like just some guidance from people like yourselves, our board, on whether this is something that we're interested in doing. Because if it's not, I could stop right here, but if this is something that our community is, it's my job to pull it off, and which I can do. I just need, we got to get some census on where we want to go.
But again, it's like what George just said, the county is doing it, at Kensico, and they're also doing it at Playland. So it seems to me that, they think it's a good idea, that maybe Mamaroneck should entertain the idea, depending upon cost as well, and talking to certain individuals and make the right choice for the community as a whole.
Yeah, I think you should talk to Tartaglia and see what he says, what the overall expense is, and then, we'll make a determination based on price.
I'll do that. I will do that.
I think it would be okay to charge people too. I know you guys always do all these things for free,
Yeah,
but I think that
absolutely.
people would be willing.
I mean, listen, if that's something we have to do, we will. It's not my first choice. I don't.
Yeah.
Especially if you need it to offset the cost, if it's expensive,
I mean, listen, I've only been in the village for 4 years, but I can tell you my time here, unlike other communities that I may have worked, we are very strong on doing free community events. That's a long history here. We always, everything we do in the harbor that is an event, we rarely charge for anything.
Can I ask those with younger children what you think? Would your kids find this neat, or they could watch it streaming at home?
I think they would like to get out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I do too. I agree. I think it would be a great family event.
And I know so many people that have tried to go to other ones that are all sold out and they can't get, and you have to drive like an hour or whatever it is.
Right, and
they're all willing to pay.
And
Lane's had them and they sold out like that.
Yeah, I think it's great that the village, wants to do this for free, but I also think community wants to help the village out. So even if you charge $20 a car or something, it would be, I think everyone could do that.
And without the popcorn, though, you bring your own popcorn.
You bring your own stuff. You bring your own
snacks,
bring your own drinks.
You have to pre-register.
You have to register them.
And there's going to be some overtime, like, with the Parks Department, there's going to be some costs, which I would be able to present you in fully, because those costs are, we're talking like personnel is under $2,000, total, but there are costs.
Okay, we don't need to vote on this, do we?
No, it's just a conversation to see what the Parks and Recreation Commission thinks, what our liaison feels about going forward with planning some sort of event this year. I want to make sure that the community, this is something that we're all interested in doing. And if it is, I can go through my proper channels to try to get us the best information possible to make everyone feel comfortable about doing something like this.
Sounds great, Jason.
Well, I think it's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should.
So this has been a very productive meeting because we actually agreed on a law, then we split it up, and now we are agreeing to the movie night, and within a reasonable cost. So I say that hands up, everybody.
Good job, Randy.
Team effort. Team effort.
Let me just add one more thing before I jump off. Don't forget that I made a prospective offer. I don't know if it's going to work or not for you. And I did make this to Portchester Rec too, because of the proximity. Consider whether, depending on the volume, because Playland's a bigger parking lot, whether or not you want to do a Mamaroneck night at Playland. That's a possibility, and the county might pick up some of that cost that we're worried about. We would consider, can't say we do it until we look at the hard numbers, and you may just say, we really don't want to drive up to Playland. Mamaroneck people want to stay in Mamaroneck. That could be true too. But at least put that in your mix of things, because it's a possibility, and it may be a faster way for you to get some of the money, because we would, I would look at where the money comes from, but we would contribute to Mamaroneck Village Night at Playland.
Right, and it's always better to not have cars on our fields.
Right. Well, I'm just giving you something else to discuss.
I love it.
That's we appreciate it.
Why don't I leave while I've given something of value? Take care, everybody.
Thank you, George. Stay well.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Listen, when George Latimer breathes, it's something of value.
I have to say, this is the 4th meeting in less than a week. I mean, maybe 6th meeting. He has come to so many meetings. He's just really, he's paying attention.
So Zoom is like
nice
candy for George, because he can zoom in.
I can do four
Much
things
easier
now.
for them.
Zoom in and zoom out.
All right,
Jason,
guys.
just one quick question, Randy. What's happening with the golf, the US Open, when we talked about parking on the grass? Is that still rescheduled for the fall or completely done?
Scheduled for September.
But they're not going to be parking on
It's
the grass.
September, but I thought they weren't having
There's no spectators.
spectators.
We don't. We have not had an update from them since June, early June, I want to say. And at that time, they pretty much told us that if they did have spectators, it would be a smallest number, very small. But they did ask us about parking on the grass, and the village told them no. You can use the lot, but there will be soccer and baseball on the fields, and they were fine with that. So they will not be using our athletic fields in the fall.
Oh, good.
But they might be using the parking lot. We're working on that. I honestly don't really know that much until we talk to them again. But they're not going to be on the athletic fields.
There goes my shuttle.
Your shuttle's going for this summer, Carl.
Next year, I know. We almost had it, Jason.
So, anybody else have anything else before we adjourn? That was a great question.
Let me just say one thing. The US Open this year, it's just 3 days. I don't think they're doing any pre-events, so it's really just 3 days.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, I think they're going to be coming a week, but like the event is Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Saturday, and Sunday.
And then it's over. They'll be out of here by Monday, and it's not going to be as grand of a scale where they have all these media day and all this merchandise drop times and all this stuff. So
Won't affect anyone who rents the fields. It won't impact
we hope not. I mean, the parking might be full, which I think we'll work on something. I don't know about the parking situation yet, but they're not going to be using athletic fields, and they know that there's going to be kids out there playing, and they're fine with it. We hope there's going to be kids out there playing. We hope.
Time will tell.
Would someone make a motion to adjourn the meeting, please? Let's see, who raises a hand?
Motion.
And second? So
Yay.
second.
Okay. Can I just say one thing? I want to say thank everybody, but I just remember when our big we were about exams being impacted by the US Open. So that would be a good thing to worry about now, right?
Yeah, now we wish we had that problem.
Yeah.
We could have never foreseen this, guys.
No.
Right?
No.
Well, everybody stay safe. It's really nice to see
Stay
everybody.
safe. Nice to see everyone too.
Stay well, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great week.
See you August 5th.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.